7 Japanese high schoolers who are prodigies in their field, politician and Prime Minister of Japan Tsukasa Mikogami, genius inventor Ringo Ohoshi, ninja journalist Shinobu Sarutobi, medical doctor Kane Kanzaki, samurai swordsman Aoi Ichido, magician prince Akatsuki, and businessman Masato Sanada survives a plane crash only to find themselves in another world with magic, where a race of humans with animal-like features called byumas live alongside humans. The prodigies are rescued and treated by a byuma named Winona and her elven daughter Lyrule. As the people of Elm Village celebrate the prodigies' recovery, they learn of the legend about 7 heroes from another world who saved the continent from an evil dragon. Believing there might be a connection, Tsukasa instructs his friends to learn more about the Freyjagard Empire and its culture so they might find a way to get back home and also improve the welfare of Elm Village using their advanced knowledge and skills to repay them. When soldiers of a local feudal lord tries to extort Elm villagers for food and wine, the prodigies defeat and scare them, leaving the villagers alone and to never tell their lord about the incident. Despite this, the prodigies continue their plan while they help in their own way. Masato and Elk run into trouble acquiring money and supplies for Elm Village when they discover that the Nushle Land Company has a virtual monopoly on the flow of commerce throughout Dormont. While the rest of the high schoolers do various odd jobs at the village, Shinobu uses her skills to dig up scandalous information on the mayor of Dormont, allowing Masato to acquire a permit to trade under the name Elm Trading Company. After taking in a homeless girl named Rue, Masato and Elk visit some local merchants and offer to help them sell their wares in Dormont through a consignment shop, where they'd undercut Nushle's land by charging less and only taking 10% of the profits from each sale, as long as the merchants stock and man the stores themselves. Masato's shop quickly becomes popular, selling everything from rugs to Tsukasa's homemade mayonnaise, and sends the money and supplies to Elm Village. Nushle's Land dismisses the Elm Trading Company as a nuisance at first, but when the Sea Serpent Maritime Merchant Company begins trading with Masato, Nushle's Land decides to take the threat seriously, setting up a rival store to undercut Elm's prices and drive them out of business. Masato shows Elk several byuma standing outside, hinting that they are part of his plan to destroy Nushle's Land for good. Nushle's Land's attempt to destroy Elm Trading Company backfires as the merchants they fire to save money ends with angry merchants boycotting Nushle's Land and signing a contract with Masato to supply Elm Trading Company instead, which the head of Nushle's Land Company admits defeat and makes a deal with Masato over trading rights in Findolf. Slave traders attempt to capture back Rue only for Masato to buy her freedom after the young girl promises to Masato that she will become a great merchant to free her parents from slavery. Tsukasa and the other prodigies build a public bathhouse for Elm Village, but when a giant bear attacks the villagers, including Winona's father, village chief Olga, Tsukasa leads the others to help while Aoi defeats the bear and Kane heals Olga's wounds. Meanwhile, Masato and his companions return to Elm Village only for them and the rest of the villagers to get arrested by soldiers of Marquis Findolf, led by his knight Inzagi. Inzagi falsely charges the villagers for treason with his absurd claim that peasants that try to rise above their station and having gold coins is considered a crime against nobility. Inzagi orders the villagers to be burned down inside their homes as punishment, but Akatsuki manages to free the villagers before Tsukasa and the others arrive, where they learn Inzagi has kidnapped Lyrule. Lyrule is kidnapped by Inzagi and is forced to become Marquis Findolf's concubine in exchange for the lives of Elm Village. But a mysterious magic protects her when Findolf tries to kiss her. Meanwhile, Tsukasa and the prodigies help the Elm villagers rescue Lyrule and start a revolution to overthrow the Freyjagard Empire and make it into an advanced, modern democratic nation where everyone is equal and has rights. Thanks to Ringo's rail cannon, metal arrows, and duralumin shields, the prodigies and Elm villagers are able to storm Findolf's castle and fight his soldiers easily, while Shinobu and Tsukasa sneaks in to rescue Lyrule. While Shinobu holds off Inzagi, Tsukasa enters Findolf's room where Lyrule is, but is shot by Findolf's flintlock pistol. However, Tsukasa survives unhurt thanks to his suit being made of bulletproof fibers and takes out his own handgun. The Marquis begs for his life, but Tsukasa shoots him with a rubber bullet instead. Since the prodigy's actions and ideals have already made them enemies of the Empire, they will not stop until the revolution is complete. A mysterious being later uses Lyrule's body to tell Tsukasa and the prodigies they must save the continent before disappearing. As everyone celebrates rescuing Lyrule and defeating Findolf's army, Tsukasa plans his next task of forming an independent nation. The prodigies start a religion called the Seven Light Faith, with Akatsuki as the god and the rest of the prodigies as his angel, in order to easily convince the people to accept them and their new nation. Using Akatsuki's magic tricks and free gifts of mayonnaise, they are able to convince the people of Dormont to switch their allegiance from the Empire to the Seven Light Faith. Tsukasa later makes a deal with the mayor of Dormont, Walter von Heiserrad, to peacefully have the city defect to the Seven Light Faith with his position intact, and talks with Zesto Bernard, the former captain of Dormont Watch, to become the leader of the newly formed Seven Light Knight Order. After convincing Bernard that his daughter's future in their new nation is worth fighting against the Empire. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elk travel to Bulkwald, where they learn the Empire is sending an army to reclaim Findolf from the prodigies led by Duke also El Gustav, a war hero and notorious control freak. At his castle, Gustav kills Inzangi for running away rather than fighting the rebels and vows to burn them. As Tsukasa implements his political reforms to modernize the livelihoods of the people, his ministers and friends are worried that he is working too hard. With the Empire planning to attack Findolf in the spring, Tsukasa modernizes the Seven Light armies by having Ringo build a power plant and a factory to mass-produce guns in order to prepare for an upcoming invasion. Lyrule believes Tsukasa hates her, as he is declining her attempts to repay him for saving her, but Masato assures her that Tsukasa is just keeping his distance out of guilt when he first told the Elm Villages to not rescue her from Marquis Findolf. Later that night, Lyrule confronts Tsukasa in his office, where he reveals he used to admire his father, the previous Japanese prime minister, until he learned how corrupt his father was, and with the help of his friends, exposed his father's corruption, which got him arrested and then executed. But this damaged his relationship with his mother, since she loved her husband and never forgave Tsukasa. Since then, Tsukasa devoted himself to becoming a selfless politician for the people, which saddens Lyrule, who tells him that she will be there for him and never hate him. Elsewhere, Rue is having a hard time learning multiplication, but with help from the other prodigies, she manages to figure it out. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elk discover a dark secret of a village. Shinobu and Elk stays at an inn run by Emeralda and her daughter Melinda at Kokonono Village in Gustav's lands. Despite the villagers proclaiming how great their village is, Shinobu becomes suspicious after noticing none of the villagers are eating their food they serve, despite starving themselves, and she and Elk soon discover Kokonono's dark secret. The villagers have been secretly drugging travelers before killing them and eating them. When Duke Gustav's soldiers punishes Melinda for having dirt on her clothes during an inspection, Shinobu gives herself up to their leader, Silver Knight Jean du Leblanc, in exchange for sparing Melinda after learning the girl tried to warn Shinobu and Elk to leave the village. Elk confronts Emeralda over the dead travelers, which Emeralda apologizes and explains that Kokonono was once a normal farming village, but when Duke Gustav took over their lands, he forced the villagers to turn Kokonono into a beautiful town using the villagers' own money and order them to always keep their clothes clean, meaning they could no longer farm for food or earn money. His obsessive rules put a toll on the villagers' lives to the point where they were forced into cannibalism just to survive, which many of them regret. Meanwhile, Jean frees Shinobu and reveals that she is actually a member of the Azure Brigade, whom opposes Duke Gustav's tyranny and asks her for help. Elsewhere, Duke Gustav becomes angry upon learning his army has yet to attack the rebels at Findolf and decides to take action by using his magic spear, Heaven's Flames, to destroy Dormont. Tsukasa and Ringo learn about the attack and uses many of the anti-aircraft missiles in Findolf to redirect the spear into the ocean, but the spear manages to evade the last missile and hits Dormont. The spear hits Dortmund's noble district and starts a fire, which Mayor Walter orders an evacuation of civilians as instructed in Tsukasa's emergency manual. Despite managing to evacuate the people and preventing the fire from spreading, Duke Gustav summons fire spirits from his spear to kill people of Dortmund and spread the fire further. Lyrule reveals to the prodigies the being that possessed her has told her that they need to destroy the spear to stop heaven's flames from spreading. Using Ringo's last missile, Aoi volunteers to escort the missile and protect it from Gustav's fire spirits so it can destroy the spear. The missile destroys the spear and stops the heaven's flames, which is felt by Duke Gustav, who vows revenge on the rebels. As the prodigies help the people of Dortmund, Lyrule reveals the being that possessed her also gave her the knowledge of magic and the ability to speak with spirits, so she wants to learn how to use magic to help. Thanks to the information by Shinobu that Duke Gustav won't be able to use another Heaven's Flames for some time, and working with the Azure Brigade, Tsukasa orders a surprise attack on Gustav's army led by Zest and 50 armed soldiers with winter gear and semi-automatic rifles. Gustav orders Marquis Arklyde and Marquis Burgwald and their forces to invade Findolf now, despite their protests as attacking unprepared during the winter is a horrible idea. Arklyde and Burgwald's forces are forced to retreat after being driven back by Zest's forces thanks to their semi-automatic rifles and grenades before both Marquis surrender to the Seven Life Faith. At the same time, the Azure Brigade attacked Duke Gustav and his men at his castle. Jean and Shinobu confronts Gustav and order him to surrender, but he refuses, leading to the fight between them. They defeat Gustav, but not before the Duke blows himself up with his own magic, seemingly killing himself. After the Seven Life Faith and the Azure Brigade take over Gustav's land and restore order, the prodigies have a meeting on whether the Azure Brigade can be trusted and become allies. Tsukasa comes to the conclusion that the Azure Brigade is hiding something from the prodigies and aren't to be trusted, especially their new leader, Count Conrad. Before they can move forward with their plans, Kane tells Tsukasa and Ringo to take some time off before they collapse in exhaustion from their overworked schedules. They agree, and Tsukasa asks Ringo to accompany him around town to find a popular food spot, causing her to believe it is a date. Ringo asks Aoi and Kane for advice on approaching boys, but their experience is limited to their skills and not in romance. Shinobu offers the best advice when she says to follow a multi-step plan that involves holding hands and indirect kisses. They begin their tour around the town and are forced to wear disguises in order to fend off the attention of the commoners. Before Ringo is able to implement her plan to hold hands with Tsukasa, they arrive at the restaurant, foiling the first step. When she switches drinks with Tsukasa to share an indirect kiss, she passes out in embarrassment when it ends up being successful. She ends up dreaming about her upbringing with her mother, who was artificially inseminated in order to create a prodigy child. However, her mother abandoned her out of spite when Ringo began winning awards for her genius at such a young age. Left with nothing, she contemplated her existence before Tsukasa appeared at her school one day and kept giving her broken objects to fix. This gave her a reason to live and caused her to fall in love with him. She awakens from her dream on Tsukasa's lap and happily states that it is thanks to him that she is where she is today. Overlooking the seaport of town, Tsukasa admires its beauty before giving Ringo an important task. Shinobu discovers Conrad is planning to have the Azure Brigade rejoin the Freyjagard Empire, just as Tsukasa predicted of their betrayal. Elsewhere, a septic anemia epidemic has spread amongst the commoners, which Kane attempts to cure despite suffering a penicillin shortage due to Ringo's newest project. However, Count Cerentius of the Medical Guild demands Kane to allow his guild to sell opium to the sick, but Kane refused. She instead makes a deal with Cerentius that she will cure the sick using coal, and if she fails, she will allow him to sell opium. With the help of Lyra's magic and Kane's knowledge of chemistry, they will turn the coal into sulfonamide, making enough to cure all of the patients. Count Cerentius and his men attempt to poison the sulfonamide to ruin the Seven Light Faith's reputation, but is stopped by Cain, who subsequently lobotomizes them into faithful people. Meanwhile, Ringo finally finishes her latest work, an ICBM. At the Empire, General Nero allows Conrad and the Azure Brigade to rejoin the Empire, but wants to destroy the Seven Light Faith, whose ideals of equality goes against the Empire's survival of the fittest mantra by providing them with an army and a mysterious mage named Tanganyika. Elsewhere, Conrad's knight Reisenach and his men attempt to kill Jean, but is saved by Shinobu, who then kills the assassins, including Reisenach. After Jean learns he killed her mentor and the previous leader of the Azure Brigade, Count Blumhardt, Jean is devastated after learning her comrades have betrayed her mentor's original goals of the Azure Brigade of improving the welfare of the people, but is assured by Shinobu that the Seven Light Faith will help achieve those goals. While Jean and Shinobu deliver Gustav's golden statue in Conrad's castle, Conrad returns with Tanganyika, who Shinobu recognizes. Tanganyika is revealed to be Gustav in disguise and kills Conrad for smashing his golden statue. He then turns his attention to Jean and Shinobu and attacks them, who he knew were hiding in the same room. They escape, but not before Gustav destroys the castle, killing every guard in his wake. As he marvels his new powers, Gustav is suddenly blown up by Ringo's newly built ballistic missile. The site of the blast is seen from Dortmund, where the prodigies contemplate the use of the weapon. Ringo comforts Tsukasa, who believes he will be hated for using such destructive means to negotiate diplomacy with other nations. The next day, the prodigies give a speech to their citizens, where Tsukasa reveals that they are now one nation, known as the Elm Republic, and must defend themselves as a republic, not under a dictatorship. While giving the speech, a pillar of fire suddenly appears, revealing Gustav, who transforms into a demon and attacks the prodigies. Aoi and Shinobu attempt to dispatch of him, using the mysterious gem protruding from Gustav's chest as their target, but are knocked back. Gustav leaps towards Tsukasa, who pulls out a handgun and destroys the gem as the demon reaches him. As he dies, Gustav warns Tsukasa of the trials ahead of him and boasts that the prodigies will never succeed. Elsewhere, a trio from the Yamato Empire and General Nero observe the events in Dortmund, with the latter proposing that the Seven Light Faith may be an obstacle for him. The next day, Tsukasa, believing himself to be inferior to the abilities of the other prodigies, contemplates Gustav's warning. He is greeted by the other prodigies, who have developed a biodegradable container to sell mayonnaise, and rejoice the defeat of Gustav and the birth of the Elm Republic with the townsfolk. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let us know by leaving a like, subscribe for more stories, and check out other stories here. And if you liked our narrator's awesome voice, you can go check out his channel in the description below or follow his Twitter. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful day.